Hello, I'm Lanisha Young, and you're watching MediaPlex News Now, YouTube Edition. Today on 5 Minutes With, Jacob McFarland sits down with Windsor Star columnist Chris Vander Dolen.
Chris Vander Dolen is a columnist at the Windsor Star. He started out as a general assignment reporter in 1982 and has climbed the ranks to become the paper's automotive beat reporter and his current position as third-page columnist and blogger. So Chris, how's it going?
Very good. Glad to be here.
When did you decide you wanted to be in journalism?
It was right after I decided I couldn't be an engineer. I was headed towards engineering in high school, and I discovered I couldn't hack the calculus. So I had to recalibrate, find a new direction, and so I decided that rather than go with my weakness, I'd go with my strength, which was English. And I'd always been a newspaper lover. I'd loved newspapers since I was a kid. So,
where did you study journalism?
Ryerson. I grew up in Toronto, and Ryerson made good sense. It was the best school at the time, arguably, although some people thought that the more academic schools were preferable, but my viewpoint was, my father's viewpoint was that the more hands-on education of a polytechnic was better. So I liked the fact that it was a polytechnic, so that's where I went.
What was your first journalism job and what was it like?
Well, my very first journalism assignment was, I was a one-night stringer for the Toronto Sun in a provincial election in 1978. After that, I worked for the campus newspaper, which was a paying job. When I got out of school, my first summer job in the industry was at Sault Ste. Marie, the Sault Star. And it was a summer job, general assignment. And I went back to school for a year, and then I went back up to the Sault again. And I stayed there for a couple of years.
You were an automotive beat reporter for the Windsor Star. Have you always been a car nut, or did you just kind of take the assignment?
I always liked cars. My dad liked cars. His older brother worked at General Motors, and cars were always a topic of conversation between me and my dad and my brother. So I always liked cars. Always been fascinated by them. And when I came to Detroit, Windsor, and the Detroit Auto Show was there, I started going to the auto show, and I always had a strong interest. I tried for this automotive beat, the automotive beat. I used to cover full time. I tried for it 3 times before I got it. It was the most coveted beat at the Star for a long time before the industry sort of shrunk.
Yeah.
But I got passed over for that promotion 3 times in a row. Twice because they needed to promote women, I found out later. And both of those people are now quite prominent in the automotive industry. One is the General Motors reporter at the Detroit News, and the other one's vice president of Ford of Canada. So I guess I didn't lose to bad candidates. So.
Many people see journalism as a bit of a mundane or a safe job. What are some of your experiences that prove that theory wrong?
Well, I don't think it's mundane at all. I think it's a really cool job to do. You get to see all sorts of things. You get to do all sorts of things. You get to go into buildings and situations that no one else does. I mean, how many people do you know who've been in a hot air balloon race or been in a Concorde or met the Queen or the Pope? You know, I got to do those things. I don't think that's mundane. I think that's exciting. It's always been a safe job, according to the Insurance Bureau of North America. In fact, out of 200 jobs and occupations, journalism used to be the 200th most dangerous. In other words, the safest of all jobs. But that's not true anymore because there's been so many deaths among overseas correspondents, and there's been so many worldwide killings of journalists that it's moved up the danger scale. For me personally, I get threatened. I mean, I've never really been in danger, but I do get threatened. A guy tried to run me over once on Olette Avenue, some sort of angry militant labor type, who later threatened me online on the Windsor Star's website, saying he's not going to miss next time. So, how dangerous is that? I don't know. It's more of a low-level harassment, I guess.
Okay. What's the story that you were most proud of writing, or was your favorite story you've ever written?
Well, one of the best stories I ever did was when I was an environment reporter, and I spent months investigating and researching the City of Detroit's sewage treatment plant, which at the time in the mid-'80s was the world's largest sewage treatment installation. And the outfall is a 40-foot diameter pipe, a gigantic pipe. And out of this thing comes, I don't know, 15 million gallons a day of treated sewage. And I'd found out that, as we know now, Detroit is falling apart. Its infrastructure doesn't work properly. I mean, their lights don't work, their buses don't run. But even back then, their sewage treatment department was falling apart. And I found out that they kept turning the spigots on and just letting raw sewage come out of that 40-foot diameter pipe. And I developed contacts within the Detroit Sewerage Department who got me documents, and I was able to prove this. And I was really proud of that story. I did a great job on it. And the day it was supposed to run, the Iron Curtain fell in Poland, and my story got chopped to rat shit, and there was almost nothing left of it.
Oh, really?
But I was very proud of that story.
What advice do you have for those who are looking to get into a career in journalism?
You're going to have to be electronic. I think if you're not electronically based, or at least electronically versant, that you can handle any of the electronic aspects of journalism, that you may not find employment. The field is narrowing very quickly. We don't really know where it's going yet, but we know it's going to be very electronic. So you have to have that part. And you'll have to be multi-skilled. You can't just do one thing anymore, because no company can just do one thing, so they can't rely on employees who do just one thing. You're going to have a couple of skills.
What does it take more to be a journalist, as far as
curiosity?
Curiosity.
I think curiosity is the biggest thing. You have to be interested in things. It doesn't matter what the topic is, but just to be interested and to want to know, and that's what's always driven me, and I think it drives the best journalists. Excuse me, is the desire to know the answer: why, who, when, how much. And that's the business to me.
Thank you very much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
You've just spent 5 minutes with Chris Vanderdolen. I'm Jacob McFarland for MediaPlex News Now.
Today's weather hits a high of 5 degrees Celsius and a low of -4. You'll want to bundle up this Friday because we're expecting flurries with a high of 3 and a low of -1. It warms up a bit on Saturday. It will be partly cloudy with a high of 6 and a low of -1. Sunday will be the warmest day of the weekend, but we are expecting close to 10 millimeters of rain with a high of 8 and a low of 4. I'm Lanisha Young, and you've been watching MediaPlex News Now YouTube Edition.